Open Your Eyes is brought to you by the Belize Bank. Our country, your bank.
Welcome to Open Your Eyes.
Start your morning right. I am John Palacio.
And I'm Marlene Cuellar, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Yes, it is a beautiful Tuesday morning out. It's not so chilly, overcast, but it feels good.
It is chilly. The cold
not.
front is here. We were told
It's
that
sweating,
it would be arriving overnight, and it
Yeah.
surely did. We felt
It
that
did,
shift
it
in the
did.
winds.
Yeah,
You
indeed.
see the clouds just like speeding by.
Yeah, that means we're getting that north, and it feels so good outside.
It's not too cold.
Yeah, it's not too cold.
It's nice.
Not too cold. It's very nice. It's very nice. But we're not the pros. Angelia Guy is the pro. So we're waiting to hear from her. But nonetheless, we're in a lovely country. We're feeling good. We're looking good. And the weather, for the most part, is looking A-okay.
And I think the best part about it is that it's dry so far.
Normally, we're looking forward to some showers with some cool front. But hey, right now it's dry. It's nice, and we're feeling good about that.
That's right. All right, we're going to go ahead and read our prepared forecast for today.
All right.
And so that general situation is for a cool and mostly dry northerly airflow that will prevail during the next 24 hours.
So good that you mentioned 24 hours, because the 24-hour forecast calls for variably cloudy and cool with little or no rainfall, except for a few showers continuing mostly beyond the reef this morning.
All right, so our winds are going to be blowing from the north to the northwest at 10 to 20 knots, and it's going to be gusty. The sea state, moderate to rough, and so there is a small craft caution for occasional gusty winds and rough seas.
All right, so let's jump on to the temperatures. While we've got that, the temperatures are looking like this. Highs for today, 78 along the coast, and that's Fahrenheit. Inland will be about 76 degrees Fahrenheit. And up in the hills, a cool 70 degrees Fahrenheit.
All right, and tonight we're going to be getting 66 along the coast,
Sweet.
62 inland, and if you're in the hills, a 56-degree night.
Gosh, that's chilly. That's
Yeah.
very chilly. But nonetheless, overnight temperatures, or the outlook actually, is for Wednesday and Wednesday night. It's for clear to partly cloudy skies, with continuing cool temperatures, and little or no rainfall is expected.
That's right. And we want to thank Angelia Guy for that update. The cold front is here.
Yes,
Do
it
enjoy.
is
And
here.
like I said, the best part about it is that there's no rain expected with it. Because the last time we had a cold front, it was just drizzling.
It was drizzling,
the
and
entire-
it was,
entire time.
that's the weather we don't like for the most part. People don't like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people are very superstitious about what they call full rain, right?
Mohobobo, they call it. Something to that extent.
Okay. now you introduced something new to me. I'm not
Right,
sure
Steve?
about that.
Mohobobo, something like that, right, Senator? Yeah.
All right, so we'll have a lesson on that one in a few, right?
Definitely,
All right, we're going to
definitely.
keep things going now with a bit of morning motivation.
All right.
And that means it's time for our Eye Opener. Our Eye Opener, taken from dailyom.com, goes like this. Each day offers us an opportunity to renew or resolve to the universe that we're ready for change. One of the hardest things in life is feeling stuck in a situation that we don't like and want to change. We may have exhausted ourselves trying to figure out how to make change, and we may even have given up. We may even say out loud that we have tried and struggled and have not found a way, but that we are open to help and that we intend to keep working to create change for ourselves. Making this declaration to the universe and to ourselves may be just the remedy for the stagnation we are experiencing. And it can be done today, right now. When we do this kind of work on how we view our past self, we make it possible for the future to be based on a positive self-assessment. This inner shift may allow us to get out of the cycle we've been in that's been keeping us stuck. Now we can declare our intentions to the universe, knowing that we have done the inner work necessary to allow our lives to change. Allow today to be the day to end cycles and enter into a new way of being.
Oh my God, I love it. You know, me and my wife, we had a conversation, I think it was 2 days ago, about where we were, where we are now, and where we want to go. And you know, for me, this reminds me of it because it is a way of seeing that, you know, it's not just only about this. It's not that, and you can't continue to see your life only here. You know, and while you were reading it, it also reminds me of certain parts of our country or certain parts of, especially Belize City and the lifestyle. And some folks might think that, you know what, this is all we have.
Yeah.
This is all we have, and there is no other clearance from here. When in reality, no. I think that if you put yourself in the state of mind, especially having the conversation with other people, put yourself in a state of mind that, look beyond this. Take a drive around Belize City and see the change from here to here. Change is possible. Not because you live here or this is your mindset means that that is you or that's the realm that you're supposed to be in. No. Each day offers us an opportunity to renew our resolve to the universe that we're ready for change. Come on, man. We must be able to see it.
Yeah, I know. You know, I think you mentioned one of the critical things, which is really looking back at how far you've grown so far. Unfortunately, for some people, that there may be little progress that's been made. And I think that what the eye-opener pushes us to do is beyond just seeing a new day as an opportunity. It's also saying that at times you have to move beyond just the thoughts in your head. You have to, you know, knowing that you want to change is not enough. You have to put in the work, but you also, which is really helpful, is make that declaration. You know, you want to change something in your life, you feel it, you say, you think it to yourself, but you don't want to tell anyone because your fear of being judged, your fear of them witnessing the failure, and all these other things that you hold back from. And there's so much power when you say those words out loud, whether it's to your spouse or a trusted friend, and you can get that support along the way. Jenny tells us all the time, you know, you got to say it, because if you don't say it, then there's no accountability there for you at all. So until you are ready to make that commitment to go beyond what you know you want to do, to saying it, then you're one step closer to doing it as well.
And do it. You know what? It also reminds me.
And it doesn't have to be a declaration on Facebook. Let me just, because that's a world we're in. You know, and I think that's why I say, you know, safe people, trusted people who have your best interest at heart.
Definitely. I love the way you summed it up. And we just want for folks to understand that you know, you could start by saying it. But when you're saying it, also envision what it's going to be like. And to be honest with you, there'll be mistakes in some of the things that we do. But the only way, and I keep on telling people, we should stop disrespecting education by saying that, you know what, that's something bad. It's not something bad. It's a way of learning. If you put your foot in that water, finding out that it's cold, the only way you are going to find out that it's cold is because you put your foot in there. Isn't that an educational process? That's just some eating. That's my thought.
So there you go. Move from beyond the thoughts in your head. You know you want it. You know you got to work towards it. Move towards a step of declaration and make use of the opportunity. Whether it's a resolution you haven't started yet, hey, we're still in January.
Yeah, we are.
And it doesn't have to be on a Monday or the first of the month or the first of the year. Just get started today. You'll be one step closer.
It could be Sunday at 10:08 after lottery. You could do something. You could start there. But it's always about getting your way to start. Start there. Start something. Start anytime. Start now. All right? And that moves us up into our next segment for the morning. And it's time to mix up that ding, ding, ding. A cup of tea. You know when you're mixing that cup of tea and you're knocking spoon to glass, how it is, right? That's a nice sound. And for this morning, this one is definitely something to talk about, and we want for you to go on your social media platform and have the discussion. And it's this: should the churches have a role in governance? I hear a grasshopper.
No, it's a very hot topic right now.
is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It
And
is.
it sparks up every now and again.
It is, and I again, a real dear part of my life is having discussions with my wife because
Yeah.
we're driving down and I ask her, do you think should the church have a role in governance? And she had her way, And for me, I think it for me and a lot of people, of course, there will be opposition. Should I say that the more we have in governance, the better it is for the people, or maybe not? I see the
Yeah.
facial expression there. Maybe not. Maybe it should happen. Maybe it should happen. Maybe then we'll find additional strength there. Maybe we'll find additional strength there. And I'm saying this because there are a lot of religious people across our country. As a matter of fact, I think the majority are. I would think, I'm not sure. But if there's somebody or people to represent in government, then I think probably they'll feel closer to decision making and how it's done. What are your
Well, we
thoughts?
do have a representative of the church in the Senate. So they are involved in the governance of the country. And I think it's a very broad question because, the church itself, each, I don't know all churches, but I know most of the churches have their own governance structure for themselves. You got the bishops in the different churches, you have the head of whatever denomination it is in country for most, and even internationally as well. So I think the churches have their own governance structure to govern their people. I think where we start to see, and I assume that that's what we're talking about in terms of looking at national development, they have been given a space in the Senate. We have a system set up of elected officials for a reason. We need to pick people who we feel will represent us best. If it's a pastor running for election, then that means you chose that person based on their personality, based on their campaign, or based on their religion.
Yeah.
But I think what we have been seeing of recent is where people of certain denominations, and not all, I have to be clear about that, have been speaking out against particular actions to be taken or being proposed in the country.
Yeah.
And I think it is absolutely right for them to be able to have a voice. There's nothing wrong with that. But there has to be some sort of decision made by leaders, and that's why they're there, to do what is best for the collective. And the collective doesn't include every person. Everybody in this country is not a Christian. They're not, and if they are, of those who are Christians, there are different types of Christians as well.
Yeah.
And so we have to move to a place where we are more respectful of different views.
Definitely.
Religion historically has always been one of the reasons why wars happen, because people refuse to accept that we have different beliefs.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of what we're seeing in the country. People have different beliefs. It doesn't mean one is better than the other. It doesn't mean that one automatically gets to win because you have a Bible that you can put up and say the Bible says so.
Yeah.
I mean, we have people in this country now that are atheists, that have no belief in any of the religions. So, and we've seen a growing Muslim community. So we are expanding as a country, and I think that we have to be very aware of that. So the discussions, I think, is a wonderful part for people to get involved and share their religious views, but it doesn't mean necessarily that they make the decisions.
Definitely. You summed it up well. And this is definitely a conversation you could start your morning with at your workplace, wherever. Get on your social media platform and start a conversation, and let's see how you feel. Democratic process is real, and we've got it here as well. All right?
Yeah.
So it is a time of the morning whereby we move on, and for today we've got 3 wonderful topics lined up. As a matter of fact, starting this morning's topic is going to be updates on national reports, the impact on business and the economy. We'll have Senator Mark Lizarraga in to tell us his views on that.
And the second part of our show, the U.S. Embassy in Belize is preparing to host the Beyond the Horizon 2020. Now, this is one of the projects that they have conducted in Belize. They do it periodically, and they do they have military personnel coming in, and they do quite a bit of work. One of them being that they have medical care that's offered for free for different communities. So we're going to get all the details about that in the second part of our show.
And in the third part, we want for you to stick a pin in your calendar on the dates of the 25th and 26th January 2020. Why? Because male volleyball, it's going to be the male volleyball championship. So 2020 male volleyball championships, and they'll be in to tell us all about it. So those and more when we come back. But before we do that, we
got
because
a birthday shout out.
and we want to say a happy birthday to none other than Brian Ferguson. Brian, happy birthday to you, man. Here was wishing you all the very best, coming from all of us right here in Channel 5 and all of us right here on Open Your Eyes.
That's right. And we're going to go ahead and take that break. When we come back, we're going to have a conversation with Business Senator Mark Lizarraga. So please stay tuned.
The Belize Bank introduces its mortgage
Welcome back to Open Your Eyes, a cool Tuesday morning, as we're now venturing off into our first segment for the morning. Updates on the national report, the impact on business and the economy. In with us to tell us more about it, we've got the business senator, Senator Mark Lizarraga. Sir, good morning.
Good morning to you both, and thank you for having me out on this lovely morning.
Your first time for 2020, right?
Yes.
Happy New Year, sir.
Same to you. And Happy New Year to Belize as well.
I forget we're still saying that.
Yes, we are.
Okay,
He's our
we
new
could say
guest
it
for the year.
earlier.
So, the topic at B is definitely one to reckon with, and a lot of people, especially having it scrolled last night, is definitely looking forward to updates on national reports, the impact on business and economy. Whenever you're on the show, whenever we make mention that Mark Lizarraga is going to be here, Senator Mark Lizarraga, folks normally say, okay, there is something of importance that's going on, and we need some clarity on that. So, updates on national reports. Where are we at this particular point? Why are you here?
If you have to be more specific, what report? Because there's so many. But I think I know what you're talking about. I tried to figure a way out how to lead into this segment this morning, because you guys are always challenging. I listened to you a bit this morning. Excellent, by the way. And I think we're in this era of opportunity, equal opportunity, non-discrimination.
Yeah.
And I think of all the ways our people are being discriminated against today, least of which is not political connected. A lack of opportunities that we should all have from a government that is investing in the right things and giving everybody the same chance. If you look at many of the reports before us today, you can see where there's a lack of opportunity for all of us. There's only opportunity for a few. So that discrimination that comes from political decisions has certainly got to be put on the table and a part of the discussion. And I don't see that single biggest contributor to discrimination and inequality in this country as part of the conversation or in that light. We have seen these reports, they're damning. What is more is that we've seen acknowledgement from certainly one minister in charge of one particular ministry, and he's saying almost in a nonchalant way, look, but it's not only here, it's happening in other places. And we know it's been happening for a long period of time. And I say to myself as a parliamentarian, where are the laws? Where is the will for us to fix these deficiencies in our system? Where are the laws? Where are the finances to strengthen those departments, those institutions of oversight? One of the things we've been calling about for a long time has been investing in internal audit units in all of these ministries and all of these big departments that control millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars of our taxpayer money.
Yeah.
And that has not been done, and there's a continued call for that. So one has to question, again, are we serious? Are we serious about reform at every level? Let me just finish my opening salvo.
But we're not in a Senate meeting, you see?
So I say, if we are not serious about true reform, creating equal opportunity, ending this political discrimination. Perfect example, the Christmas chair. How come some areas won't get
40
and some won't get 20? And then when you look for the per capita allocations, it's ridiculous.
Well,
it's ridiculous. So that's just a simple example, but it's not. It underpins our seriousness to equality.
Yeah. And it's a very blatant example.
Yes.
And that's where I wanted to start off the conversation today, getting a bit of reflection. Senator, you've been in the Senate for quite a while, and
You make us sound like
as
a
a part
only
of our
8 years.
show as well, in being able to discuss the different issues that's taken to the Senate and other matters as well. Now, we have before us, at this particular time, 2 reports that show clear, very, very clear, that the misappropriation of funds continues to happen. It is public knowledge. As a senator, given the fact that you have a role in part of our governance structure, what is the feeling or the sentiment that you have? Because at this point in time, it's almost that these things are going to continue occurring without any challenges, without any stops. And I use one very specific example. The Senate Select investigation that took place. It was one of the moments where I think we would have been proud had it been more productive. We're looking at years later, there can't even be a report made out of it. No one was really held accountable for the actions there. So it really comes back to the fact that it's back to that rubber stamp role that the Senate is playing.
Give me a break for answer the 1,000,001 things that you raise in me when you talk.
I said one thing.
No, how do I feel?
Yeah.
I feel outraged. I feel concerned. I feel many times hopeless because I know that we're being muzzled in so many ways in the Senate and we're being undermined many times. But that's a whole other conversation. Look, let's bring it back to business. Why are we so concerned about the good governance and accountability for our monies? Because we see so many of our people, half of our people really almost, hovering just about that poverty line or below. So as a businessman, that concerns me because I want to see the people in our country prosper.
Yeah.
The more buying power they have, the stronger the economy will be. But if you look at the fundamentals of the economy, so many areas are doing poorly. Thank God we have one area that's doing very well, tourism. Right? But when you look at the environment, for example, and the monies we bring in for the environmental tax and the things we're allowing in our environment. By the way, I want to take this opportunity to build up 2 groups. I want to build up the little Rotaract Club in Benqueviejo
Yes.
for the fine job that they have done, the initiative that they have taken to clean up that river. That should be something that's coming from our environmental agencies because we have the money for it. We collect $42 million a year to clean up this country, and that shall, the law says, go towards cleaning up the environment and the initiatives of the Clean Water Alliance. I want to build them up because these are private citizens trying to do their part when government has the resources, the money, the taxes for it, and they're failing. I'd like to congratulate as well those in the fishing sector and the fisheries for having championed, and it's taken how many years?
Many years.
More than 10 years, I think, of lobbying. So there's hope.
And it was voted through unanimously, which is also an excellent. One of the highlights from yesterday.
So, but there's not enough of that. There's not enough of that. There's not enough that's being done by those people that should be in leadership positions to try and bring about the changes that we need to have a vibrant economy, to have a safer country, because that affects our economy, security, right? National security. So there's so many things that affect the cost of living that comes as a direct impact of our inefficiencies in government spending. Remember, government takes out of our pocket 35 cents out of every dollar. And if you're spending that in an inefficient and unequal way, and only a small segment of the population are benefiting from that, it creates more inequality in our country. You did thief basically from our pockets to give to your special few. And there are examples of it in the report, which I'm sure you'll cover. I no plan to cover them now because you don't give me enough time. Of course, we could all day. But there are many examples of misuse, abuse, illegalities. I'm glad to hear in this instance that the Prime Minister is saying that he's going to ask the police, or he inferred that the police would get involved, and the Commissioner said they would get involved. They don't wait for no special investigation. They have the report of the Auditor General. They can act. That's the same thing that should have happened with the immigration reports. But the then commissioner took the position, I'm going to wait for the Special Select Committee's report. There's no need for that. They should have acted as the Auditor General recommended in her umpteen recommendations in those 3 voluminous reports that she made on immigration. So one would have wanted to see the Commissioner of Police as well say, I'm going to open up that again, as they should. And that doesn't need a Special Select Committee's report. I'm not saying the report should not be made. It should be tabled to wrap up that exercise.
It has to be made.
Of
It's paid
course,
for.
and it's a legal requirement. But what I'm saying is the point I'm getting to is that the police and the authorities should have acted in spite of that.
That they can act on the Auditor General's report
right.
and not on the final
right.
Senate Select investigation
That's right.
report. Now, I want to go back because you said something very clearly. You said that you feel frustrated, you feel outraged, and you feel hopeless.
But I don't give up, you know.
I agree. Neither do we, which is why we're here. And I think that it is a sentiment that is echoed in the wider community. I know you talk with a lot of people, not just in the business community. So you know that people feel that they are helpless in a situation like this.
A lot of them are afraid, you know.
But it is important for us to understand the issues as best as possible and understand, more importantly, where the breakdowns occur. How is it possible that people can get away with collecting on funds that are allocated for one thing without contracts, without documents? How are these checks even made out in the first place? So that's where I wanted to dive into the reports. Let's look at what we can identify as some of the breakdown in these structures and where we have fallen short in oversight.
Let me answer that before you get too far ahead of me. A very good point. The Ministry of Finance, to me, has failed big time. These are the people really, first and foremost, responsible for the care of our monies in our system.
The people's money.
Right. And they will say that they have been under-resourced. They will say that they have limited resources, limited personnel, as they have said. But I would think that they, being the professionals that they should be, should see the value. Imagine if they had an internal auditor in this one stadium, right? Or the high school. Those 2 units I'm talking about of many, and we're looking at them just for a short period of time, remember. Don't you think we could have paid from those savings, from those monies that have been lost, misused? Don't you think we could have paid for an internal auditor? Wouldn't we have gained? Remember this segment of the audits that the Auditor General did at just about 1 year period. Look, you talk millions of dollars.
In 1 year.
Okay, in 1 year. In 2 of the entities under his watch. And he suggested that we have issues in many other entities under his watch. And we've seen that in every ministry, in every report of the Auditor General. So, first thing, why don't we invest in strengthening our institutional capacities in our people, putting people in there to safeguard these things properly? That, to me, would give so much more return on investment than many of the other investments we're making. So it would have a direct impact on efficiency in government and maybe even lowering our tax burden because a big portion of what we pay is being siphoned off.
So when you speak of the weaknesses in the Ministry of Finance, you said there's a lack of resources, but how could that have circumvented what we saw take place at the National Sports Council and at Holy Ancho Technical High School?
Because if we had oversight mechanism built into the operations
what type of
the
oversight?
I'm talking about internal auditors, right? Because they would be there. Look, there's no excuse for what has happened. I'm not making excuses because the finance officers should be looking at these things. When they disperse money, they should be expecting contracts, they should be expecting reports. The boards should be doing their job. You can't tell me. One of the board members said, well, the sports director takes his instructions from the minister that the minister hire, and he deals directly with the minister. So we're here as a board and we don't know what happened. No, that's even though the minister appoints the boards, that's a lame excuse. Because as a board, you have a responsibility. And if I'm not mistaken, you should have a fiduciary responsibility as well. That's why you're there.
But Senator, I think this is where the
So
problem...
if you have a situation where you have a board, and we've seen that too many times too, because people are appointed, they're afraid for talk, they don't want to lose any position, right? So the minister go around and circumvent and say, boy, give this one to my fellow minister or my friend or my political aspirant, give him the first opportunity. Discriminate against the others that deserve it, right?
But this is where you use the word again, the discrimination process. I think that the people don't, I don't want to say don't trust. They're afraid because of the political victimization. So why do we have politicians having the power to choose the people they want? Are we the educational process of the people? We're lacking. I'm looking at what's going on right now in Asia, whereby I think in Hong Kong as we speak, these people are they're enraged because of the things that are going on. I think that as a people we're not cognizant of how our monies are being spent. I think that the people that we put in place, we actually look at the color so they could eventually progress. And
let me answer you this in 2 years before you get too far ahead of me.
Sorry.
One, there's been deliberate undermining of the institutions of oversight in this country for too long. And you can't give somebody responsibility without giving them resources. That was my point yesterday with the contractor general, because you're setting them up to fail. I can't give you this whole range of responsibilities and this much budget and this much personnel to do it. Yeah. That's one. It's not a priority. You have to get that in your head. The people that are in Belmopan are not investing in strengthening of our institutions. They know they resource them, they know they finance them. That's one. Second one, I'll give you a good example about the people and their desire to bring about outrage or to bring about a champion for change, etc. Okay. Love Foundation and the U.S. Embassy and Galen University just championed something that I thought was very excellent. They championed this governance, transparency, accountability, and ethics class at Galen University. Kudos to them. I'm so happy to see that it's being taught in our high schools. And I understand in our universities, and as a must, you have to take this subject. And I understand that a lot of schools have started now, BS, or the high school affiliated BS is starting to do that as well. But I understand the University of Belize refused to put it on their curriculum. Why would the University of Belize, and people might get upset with me for saying this, but why would they refuse to have this subject as a part of their curriculum? Because they depend so much on government for their finances and resources. You see how people get afraid? Why would our national university not want to have a course and make it mandatory to teach you about accountability, good governance, transparency, and ethics? I have a major concern when I hear that. Yeah. Okay? So if we want our people to become engaged, we have to inform our people. That's why I always thank Marlene and this show for giving us that opportunity for teach the people of this country. At least little bit by little bit we plant seeds.
It's not just teaching. Sometimes it's just helping us to understand. And that's why, let's get back to what we have before us, because when we hear this report, and we can focus on either one, whether it's the Julian Cho or it's the Sports Council, what it shows is that there were money transactions being made that didn't fit within how money should be dispersed. In the case of the Sports Council, you're talking about no contracts, you're talking about people cashing checks, you're talking about direct relationship between the person who writes the check and the minister himself, and the minister also receiving, and also people who have benefited and also other people who have benefited quite a bit from government contracts. So when people hear these stories repeatedly, it almost feels like there is nothing that can be done to prevent them. But we do have mechanisms in place. And so my question to you, Senator, because I know you are a stickler when it comes to due process. What were the processes that were circumvented in these particular instances, and who would have been responsible to ensure that those processes were to be executed?
A lot of people were responsible. Let's put it plainly. A lot of people fell down on their jobs, and they left this responsibility to one person in most instances. The Finance and Audit Reform Act is very clear and very simple. It tells you how you spend the people's money. It tells you how you account for it. It tells you the processes that you must go through when you're seeking to expend huge sums of money for works.
Yes.
If you're going to be expending over a certain amount, you have to go through a certain process. None of these processes...
And that process includes?
Tendering, putting out things, invite people
So you put
in
that-
an equal and non-discriminated
So you put that announcement in the
way.
newspaper that
Yes.
we see sometimes. We're looking for bids for this type of work. So if I
Exactly.
have a small business or I have an established business, I can bid for
That's
it as
right.
well.
Okay, so that all of us
So
have
that's
an
the
equal
first
opportunity.
step.
That's the first step. Okay. Well, it started before that. What about when those posts became open? The minister shouldn't appoint.
Put somebody
Like, we
there.
have a public service commission, and we have all these other commissions that have been on the mind. There's an opening, there's a vacancy for a finance officer at the Sports Council. That should have gone out, so all public service would have had an interest, or who had an interest, could have applied for that job. The minister shouldn't put people in there. But this is happening, and I have to say this, I understand now that we have people from the European Union coming to the Ministry of Finance and telling them, look, you need to have internal auditors in all these departments and ministries. And the Ministry of Finance, in the way I hear it, here or so, they say, no, we have people, Manora, we have people competent there. And the people
Well,
are
we
saying,
can't
look,
verify
if you
that.
have somebody that's not going to be doing their work, it's worse than having nobody. Because you have that sense of security. Well, I have somebody in there. No, but that person in there was appointed by because I'm a friend of this or a friend of that. No, you can't have that.
Still you
But
get paid.
in for a matter of clarity, because I can't verify what you're saying, most of these institutions would have a finance officer, someone who's handling the books.
Should, yes.
Yes. So these are the persons who would ensure that the process
Should.
would have gone through.
Should.
It should have also been something that the board was aware of as
Sure.
well.
Yeah.
So it's not the first
That's why at the
time-
last budget, I called out the public service. Because they know no government, no minister, collects money on behalf of government or pays money on behalf of government. No minister. It's the public service. And the rules that are there, they should follow without fear or favor. Okay? And the institutions that should support them and back them up have been deliberately weakened. Look, Integrity Commission, I know I jump all over the place.
I was
right?
gonna-
Integrity Commission. I heard the Prime Minister say the other day, oh, but we've been filing since 2013. Well, I tell you what, I have been filing since 2011. I came in 2012, I filed for 2011. First time I see my declarations come out in the Government Gazette a few months ago, or weeks ago. First time. And the first report was from 2016. And I know previously, and I stand to be corrected, that there was something that said, look, we can't look beyond 2016 because before that we never have one board or we couldn't find people.
Yeah.
Well, but the law is very clear. You should be filing from the year before or for the year before you get into
You
office.
should declare your
Declare,
assets,
right.
yeah.
Until the year after you leave.
Yeah.
So how you get
So
that?
it's a tracking process to see
Yes.
if you have unexplained wealth gained while
Right.
in an elected official or in an appointed position.
Thank you.
But you've been going all over the place.
I'm going all over the
And
place, but they're all connected.
I
They're all
agree.
connected because the institutions that we have that should be monitoring these unexplained spurts in wealth by our elected officials are not working. The institutions that should be safeguarding the spending of our money for contracts and in these departments and are not working. The minister admitted as such.
But Senator, this is where we see an issue that has been discussed before. I remember being joined by the Public Accounts Committee chairman, and we were talking about issues that go back so far that people can't even remember these issues taking place. So what happens is we have institutions, we do have an integrity commission, we are getting a contractor general, we do have a public accounts committee, but would you say that we are simply doing it, or it is simply being put together for face value, or they're actually doing effective work?
I think that's, you've said it beautifully, but I think that's what I've been trying to say all morning, and that's what I said yesterday. We're setting up these institutions to fail. The contractor general has to look at over 1,000 contracts per year.
Yeah.
And his staff?
He have one secretary and one office assistant or something like that. 3 of them. No, one document could be this tall, 30 pounds. And in GSA, documents could be 30 pounds. No, he has to not only peruse that and see that if that is correct, it's issued in the right way, all the procedures has gone through. But he has to go out and look at the work to see that we get value for money, that it's being, what the paper says is out there, that kind of thing. It's humanly impossible
For that to happen.
for that to happen. So we go to these organizations. Oh, we have an office of the ombudsman. We have an office of the contractor general. We have an office of this and an office of that. And now we're setting up more commissions and more tribunals. And we don't put the resources. We don't invest in the human capacity, in the institutional capacity. We're investing in other places, as you suggested. Right? So where is the will? That is the question. And remember, back again now to the business community, we're here in an economy that's going down. We're in a depression. Right? We've seen many of our major industries struggling. We see more and more Belizeans failing and coming out of business. You see a spurt in the increase in businesses. I'm happy to see some, like a new company the other day, a WhatsApp company that opened up in Kaya. It's going to be hiring about 200 people. Fantastic. That's one of the first examples of a big project I've seen.
Belizean growth?
No American investment, foreign direct investment. We have too few of those. But we need to be looking at creating 7,000, 8,000 jobs a year. Yes, I'm happy when you have something we create on jobs for 200 people or 100 people or 50 people. But where are the projects that we need to swallow up those 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 students a year, to give them opportunities, to give them jobs? Where are those projects? Remember, we invest 26 cents out of every tax dollar in education. Are we really getting our bang for a buck? And then we see how much money is being siphoned off to those select few. So, Marlene, I know you look for the solutions, and I know you are. We need to educate our people, or people need to become involved, or people need to be taught.
It's beyond. I wanna challenge you here.
Challenge
you
me.
You are the business, the
Senate.
representative for the business community in the Senate. I've always mused at the global statistics or ranking that Belize holds. We're a middle income country. The census will be rolled out this year. We'll get a clearer indication in terms of the poverty levels that people do have. But I think individually we can all take a look around and be more conscientious of how people are living in this country. So we know that in many of these instances where works are being executed and contracts are being given out, it's the business community that benefits. So how do you speak publicly about the lack of will to invest in human resources and in improving the lives of people, but what do you do internally as a representative of the business community to ensure that the people who are benefiting are also growing a conscience as well?
Let me correct you. That's like saying all the investments that are being made, the people are benefiting. Some people are benefiting. Some people in the business community do benefit. But I would like to think that we represent those in the business community that are constantly calling for reform, for transparency in the way we do things, and for equal opportunity and non-discrimination. I would like to think that. As you can know, the Chamber has constantly been calling and the business community calling for those contracts. We want to see how those contracts are issued, because we have members that have an interest in bidding for those contracts. And in many instances, they have been discriminated against, and they don't have the equal opportunity to get those jobs. So we have people that are interested too. I lost the second point.
No, because
Sorry.
it still is on the same issue,
Okay.
which is, what do you do internally? We will hear the business community speak out against the government side, and that is absolutely fair, and you do that role in the Senate. But we don't hear you calling out these businesses that are continuously
Well, I think that's not
receiving-
fair. I think I think too many times the business community has issued statements, has issued press releases, have come on this show and spoken about the big issues that they want to address and how we plan to address it. And this is a good lead-in. I think right now I know that we're working on our manifesto for this year. Every time we come out, we have an election, we try to come out with our manifesto. What are the things that we want to see from you as leaders? And the last elections around, we had a manifesto. I think I launched it, or we came here and spoke about it.
and your white papers. Yeah.
Right, okay. And we invited the political parties to sign on to this manifesto for change and reform. As you know, the business community has been championing for those things for many years, from the Honorable Leader of Government Business, the Honorable Godwin Hall, sat in the chair that I hold today. So we'll be launching that again this year. The last time we launched it, the only group that did not want to sign it, and they were invited, was the UDP administration. All the other political parties that were invited signed it. So that was a clear indication that they're not serious about committing to the business community this reform agenda. So we're going to be doing the same thing again this year. We're going to be promoting and launching our reform agenda, the call for reform in this country.
Yeah.
There are others that are doing it. Sadly, there are others that should be calling for it, and they're silent. And one has to look at that, and you know who I'm talking about. So again, it's a nation building. It's a slow process, but we have to get involved. We all have to get involved. Yesterday, amazingly, the old Godwin came back, and there's a piece, you need to play that piece, where he challenged people to get involved in helping the contractor general to do their work. If you see something wrong, go and report it.
Yes.
If you know something is wrong, go and report it. And I agree with him. We have to get involved because we own it. We remember the people that we sent to Balmopan work for us, They're not our lords and masters, they work for us. So we should be able to demand of them that which we want. Right? So please get involved. That's my message.
And that brings me back to the educational process, because this is where we're failing. The people don't understand that the people are the power.
Invite me back to your show more often.
Because you were aware that we are out of time. Senator, we scratched the surface on this issue.
As always.
But I hear your passion in terms of being able to have people be more aware of what is taking place. And we appreciate you coming in to share that with us.
You're having the U.S. Embassy here this morning.
That's right.
I'd like to thank them for their support of this program that they're involved in with the Love Foundation called Suck It. You'll probably hear more about it in the future, but we need initiatives like this.
That's
we
a
need
good
more
one
people.
for the business community. They can sponsor those kinds of classes too, right?
There you
So
go.
we do our part, right?
I agree.
All right, I'll leave you with that challenge. We're gonna go
One more challenge. I don't have enough.
because we know you're up for it. Thank you. We're gonna
Thank you,
go
thank
ahead
you.
and take a break. When we come back, we're gonna get the details about Beyond the Horizon 2020. So stay tuned.
And welcome back to Open Your Eyes, a cool Tuesday morning across the country. We're now venturing off into our second segment for the morning. We've got the rep in from the U.S. Embassy, and we'll be talking about Beyond the Horizon 2020. The Chargé d'Affaires from the U.S. Embassy of Belize is here with us. He is Keith Gilges. I got it correctly this time.
I answered lots of things. That was great.
Sir, good morning, and it's nice to have you again.
Well, thank you very much. It
Yes,
feels
sir.
like I was just here. I think it was about 3 weeks ago. So thanks for having me back again. I hope I'm not showing up too often.
I think that means you like our coffee.
Yes,
I
it
do.
does.
The coffee is delicious, and I appreciate the company even more.
Beyond the Horizon 2020, I'll tell you what, it is something that the country is very thankful for. Like Marlene mentioned a while ago, especially having these medical clinics, there were a lot of people who tried their best to take advantage. So let's expand into it as to the Beyond the Horizon 2020. Refresh our memory, what is it?
So Beyond the Horizon is an exercise that we do, and it largely involves U.S. active duty military personnel, reservists, and National Guard folks who come in. And now our idea is that for our folks to be operationally ready, they need to practice. They need to do these exercises. And when we've got a partner like Belize, we say, hey, listen, if we're going to have our folks refurbish and expand buildings, why don't we work with our partners in Belize to say, hey, let's do this here. You know, for anybody that's traveled overseas, you know, your expectations of what it is are always a little bit different from when you actually get there. So for our folks to be at their best, they have these opportunities to do these exercises. So something like this costs us in the range of about, we're spending about $1 million to bring the folks in. But as long as we're doing it, let's actually make sure there's an impact on the ground. So we'll be refurbishing, doing construction projects at 4 schools, 1 medical clinic. We'll actually be then conducting medical clinics in 4 different communities up north, and we'll actually be doing a livestock veterinary clinic and a surgical clinic. So again, it's an opportunity that benefits Belize. The impact of this continues because the facilities are there, the schools are refurbished and improved. And at the same time, our folks have an opportunity to exercise their skills and do these things. So it really is a win-win for both sides.
How do you identify what areas you want to work in, especially in the construction work?
Yeah.
Sure. So it's a large process that began many, many months ago. In fact, the previous Beyond the Horizon exercise was in 2017, and it was in southern Belize. At that time, they said, well, next time we come, if we get funding, if we're able to do these exercises, if they continue, let's do it in the north. So the process of identifying then where is done something cooperatively with the government of Belize. And so our military planners and our folks at the embassy will work with the Ministry of Health, will work with the Ministry of Education, and they'll say, well, hey, there is a need in this area, or there is a need in that area. And then our folks come in, and have been for many months, and look at the site and say, okay, if we're going to do this, do we logistically have the capacity and the roads to get our things in? Can the helicopters land here?
Yeah.
A lot of these exercises, you say, the point of the spear, the real effort is the clinic that goes on. But to put that person in the place to provide that medical service, somebody's got to be feeding them, somebody's got to get them there. So there's the whole logistical tail. So all of this is the process of the exercise. And so we need to make sure that that site makes sense for what we're going to be able to do. Because at the end of the day, we want it all to be a great benefit. And making sure we've got it in the right spot. So it's very much a cooperative effort between the U.S. and Belize to identify and confirm these sites.
So north is in Corozal.
It's in Corozal.
Yeah. Now, the Beyond the Horizon, I know the last time I was sharing with you that the medical clinics had long lines and people were really taking advantage of the care and the checkups that they could receive there. As you've clearly said, that's just one component of what you're going to be doing. It's about being able to offer that to the residents of that area. But talk to me about what the military personnel gain from this experience, other than just being able to work in a foreign country.
Well, that is a large part of it.
Yeah.
Is for many of these folks, this might be their first deployment overseas. And so arriving someplace new, they get the experience, okay, this is what it's like in an environment. If they're practicing and saying, well, let's run a med clinic somewhere in Florida, okay, well, hey, we ran out of X or Y. Oh, well, you might be able to run down to the store and buy those sorts of things. Well, operating in a different environment, you may not have that capacity.
Yeah.
You know, so if we want to say our medical clinics and our medical facilities, we're able to move and set them up anywhere, they need to practice that. So getting that kind of experience is just invaluable. Now, we could do it where we say, hey, would you mind if we use that field for a little while? We'll set up a medical clinic. We'll see if it all works.
Yeah.
And when it does, we're like, okay, great, we're done. We'll pack all up and go. Or can we say, while we're here, we've set all this up. We've got the capacity. Let's put it to good use.
Yeah.
And so there will be hundreds of people that will be treated. I'm gonna, if you'll excuse me, I'll
Yes,
look at
sir,
sort of
you
the
do
list
that.
of things here. So from general medicine, women's health, preventative medical education, dental care, optometry, immunizations, pharmacy services, pediatric, and
Yeah.
family care. So all
Yeah.
these things
It's a wide range.
are going to be offered. It's a wide range of
Yeah.
things because that's what's needed.
In terms of I'm not sure if you had mentioned the start time for it and what the duration is going to be.
So, I mean, for me, it feels like it already started because we've got folks coming in and out.
Yeah.
Again, going to the sites, talking to the Ministry of Health, talking to the Ministry of Education to make sure that once we move in, you know, once the planes fly in with facilities, everything works like clockwork. When the actual activity, when folks might see people on the ground, might see a helicopter overhead, it's starting in May and it'll run through August.
Oh, wow.
The bulk of that time is in June and July. So we will have a launch sometime in May. You know, these activities will be ongoing. We estimate about 250 U.S. service personnel will be coming in and out. At any one time, there might be 50 people on the ground.
Yeah.
But this team is coming and it has its function, and then it leaves. The next team comes in, again, to have this whole pretty large exercise operate as seamlessly as possible.
Now, it is important for people to know that this groundwork is taking place, because if we see military troops moving around or aircrafts hovering, you know, there's a lot of suspicion that people have.
Listen, we don't want any of this to take anybody by surprise. So this doesn't happen till May. I'm here in January to start spreading the word. We're going to keep spreading the word. You know, let me speak candidly. This is also an election year in Belize.
Yes.
I want to be very clear that this May, June, July, August, the site locations, everything else was determined a long time ago in cooperation with our Belizean partners. So later on, if suddenly somebody sees a helicopter in the sky, it is far beyond the horizon. This has been planned well in advance.
Yes.
And we want to make sure that word gets out. That's
Yeah.
really why I'm here.
So you weren't asked to have this clinic in an election year specifically, it was just...
These things get planned, you know. In 2017, they said, okay, we are literally looking out 3 years. You know, the
Okay.
military can move quickly,
Yeah.
but to move that amount of stuff, to move it well, to have the money in place, takes time and planning.
Yeah.
And they are excellent at planning, and so they have been at this for a long time, you know, and working with us at the embassy, working with, again, I said, you know, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health, to put on these projects.
So it is every 3 years, 2017 to now 2020.
Correct.
And then we move on. So again, folks should know it's not because of an election is coming.
It is not.
It's because they've done this groundwork so many years before. Now, we did mention as to the educational process. Now, these folks will also be in, and they'll be helping to build educational facilities. And can you give us some of the areas that this have been done already?
So, you know, there were a number of communities in southern Belize. Again, I wasn't here for that, so I can't speak to it as directly. I know for the Beyond the Horizon 2020, there will be 4 communities up north: Chan Chen, Paraíso, San Pedro, and San Antonio, I believe, that will be having schools, portions of them, some construction going on, some things refurbished at those schools, and then the clinic, the medical clinic, will also be built in Chan Chen. So those are those 4 communities. We haven't yet finalized the communities where we'll be having the health clinics, but again, that'll be set up in advance. Of
course. Yeah.
Folks will know here's the treatment that's coming in
Yeah.
to make sure that we're able to bring the people in
Yeah.
on the right day, at
Yeah.
the right time. We don't want huge lines out front as best possible. We want to make sure we're maximizing the amount of time that they're here
Yeah.
to provide these services.
So we don't know the exact location, but we do know the region. It'll be in the north. And we do know the type of specialized care that will be offered as well. And these are, you know, they're military personnel, but they're trained medical professionals as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As with, you know, members of my family, one of the great benefits to joining the military was, it's my brother-in-law's brother, had his medical school paid for, because then he returned that number of years as a doctor in the Navy. A great family friend of ours who lived across the street when I was growing up, he had done the same thing, and they continued in the Naval Reserve for years after that. But again, so a lot of these folks will go on to private practice afterwards. But having this opportunity to do this kind of medical care in an environment that's different, in a place that's different, and showing what our capacities are, is that's where we get that experience out of it. But we're providing real care to our partners in Belize.
It is a massive undertaking, if I recall, from 2017. What's the estimated number of personnel that's going to be on the ground during that time?
So we think we'll be rotating in about 250 people total, coming in and out. But if somebody says, okay, well, my specialty is this part of a construction project, I'm an electrical specialist or I'm a plumbing specialist, and as part of this, I have that function. So they might come in, do a few days' work, and go back out again. But we're constantly going to be then moving people in and out. So they're here when they need to be here. They're not here when they aren't. But part of that is then all these folks have to stay somewhere. They've got to eat some food, and they are absolutely going to be eating some delicious Belizean local food. But again, we will be contracting with local providers to say, hey, we need you to set up the mess. So these folks get up in the morning, they've got their food, they go off, they do their work, they've got lunch. And so this is also an economic boon. Anytime you're moving this number of people in and out, there are all sorts of costs associated with it. And again, that goes right back into those communities and into Belize.
It is a part of the win-win situation there. Because if you're moving from one spot to another and you're expanding on your expertise, that of course is a win-win. Now, while we've gotten beyond the horizon and we've expanded on that, and we know exactly when it's going to be and how many people will be challenging it or taking it on, we also got to understand that the U.S. Embassy have teamed up with a foundation to bring shed light on an educational aspect, which of course will benefit the country. Can you expand on that, if you may, please?
This is about some of our grants, our CARSI grants for programs. Well, we have a whole range of things that we work on here, and part of my effort coming into these programs is to talk about all these different things. But there's an awful lot that folks may not know, and that we work on. And so part of the Caribbean Central American Regional Regional Security Initiative are these CARSI ESF grants. And so every year we provide, I think this past year we announced 3 grants, each for around $250,000. And for the past 2 years, it's been focused on issues of good governance. And so working with civil society organizations, working with the government to improve their interaction with civil society organizations. This past year, it was working with CSOs on human trafficking. Again, the idea is the better the governance is, the better run a country is going to be. And so, as much as we will often through USAID provide health assistance in place, whatever else, the better the government is able to provide it itself, the better civil society organizations are able to partner with the government so everybody maximizes what skills they bring to the table. That means that each country moves more towards its pathway towards complete self-reliance.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
And that's the reason why we're so appreciative of the work that the U.S. Embassy and Belize have teamed up to do, because one of the things that we were talking about with Senator Lizarraga is the educating the people as to moving forward, learning about good governance and learning about how to identify things, especially when it comes to governmental organizations and how it's run. It's one of the best things that can benefit your people. Back to Horizon 2020. We work along with locals and the internationals alike. I know that you're not, being that this is your
my first Beyond the Horizon.
Yes, your first Beyond the Horizon. I'm sure though that you've spoken to some of the people who have been around it for a long time. What are their sentiments in working along with, especially in a country like this one?
Well, I think, one of these programs, what they do is also build goodwill. So for all the people that are coming in, my message to the Americans is, remember, every day, everything you do, you are representing the United States of America. but your ability then to reach right down into the communities at the most local level, that may be the first time that somebody has had a chance to interact with a member of our military, or has had a chance to interact with a member of the government at a time when they're vulnerable and they need something. And building that kind of goodwill is, goes a long way to increasing what I always mention when I'm here, but the affinity between the people of the United States and the people of Belize. I work at a government level, but there is so much more to the partnership that exists between our two countries than what my government is doing or what your government is doing, is what the people are doing together. And whether it's a beyond the horizon type exercise, or whether it's a lot of the private medical teams that will come down as part of NGOs. I mean, I will be traveling around the country and I might run into these folks. I have no idea they're here. They don't have to clear their activities with me. They're coming in as a private foundation to do work here. But we as two peoples benefit from all those types of exchanges.
Yeah, it's an important relationship. I think there are a couple issues I wanted to discuss. First of all, I know it is very important to get a bit of comment from you in terms of what's happening with the missing tourist, Allison McKenzie. This search, as far as we know, is still underway. I know you are the liaison for the family, the embassy, that is. Talk to us a bit about that.
Well, I don't want to speak to the specifics of that case, obviously, but one of the primary functions of the U.S. Embassy is to look after our citizens. And so, when an individual, when this sort of event happens, where we can help, we do. It's often information exchange. It's helping out the family back in the States. What information do they need? How can we help out? And so we have a whole section at the embassy called American Citizen Services. And there's a large resident population here. And so they really focus on providing those services. But again, we always will do this in cooperation with the Belizean government, because they have jurisdiction and they're the hosts here.
Has there been any request for assistance in terms of getting investigators in or people to assist in the search and rescue?
Not that I'm aware of yet. But again, I have to admit that I've got an amazing team of people at the embassy. And if a request comes out and the answer is, we should do that, they don't have to wait for a go-ahead from me. It's like, and we always say, let's empower the people who know the most at the action level to make the decision. If it's an easy decision, I don't need to make it. Don't waste time waiting for me or waking me up. It's like, go ahead, make the call, tell me about it later. So again, that request may have come. I don't want to say it hasn't, but it would come directly, sort of security service to say, and let's activate it. And they may be working on it now.
It's a very sad case. So moving on to another issue, we also saw the response from a member of our National Security Council in preparing for the possibility of a migrant caravan moving through Belize. And we got word, in fact, that they moved from Guatemala to Mexico, making their way to your homeland. It still is a continuous challenge for the United States, and I know you're still working with partners in Central America. Can I get your comment on looking at the continuous development of the migrant issue?
Yeah, sure. So listen, every country has the right to protect its borders and to determine who is allowed to enter and isn't allowed to enter. That's the same for the United States as it is for Belize. As we look at the migrant issue, one of the key things is to address the drivers of migration. So how can we help improve the economic opportunities in communities in Guatemala, in communities in Honduras, in communities in El Salvador, so that people say, hey, we have a future here. This trek north is dangerous. It's hazardous. And the fact that people are willing to do it speaks to the conditions that exist at home. So we want to promote legal migration, the legal movement of people. But if folks are, are migrating without the proper documentation, everything, they are also putting themselves at risk. So when we look at it from my perspective, as the U.S. representative here in Belize, obviously, if a large migrant caravan were to come into Belize, it's a wholly different, ratio, the number of people arriving here. This is a smaller country with smaller services. And so it's that much more difficult. So it's something we were very much paying attention to. Will this become, or is there a threat that this could become a migrant pathway that folks move through Belize? That's obviously something we want to work with the Belizean government to prevent from happening, because the tax that would put on Belizean resources would be enormous. And again, it's an order of magnitude different. Your neighboring countries have greater capacities. They're just larger population, larger governments. We don't want to put for Belize to be in that situation.
As a government representative, U.S. government representative in Central America, I think, what's your perspective in terms of the level of understanding of the challenges that the Central American migrants are facing and why they're fleeing up north? Because it's not very often a part of the broader conversation.
So, as a representative here in Belize, Belize is not a source country for these caravans. And so my goal is to help Belize not become drawn into that issue. Because it has, as we've seen in the past, had an impact on our foreign assistance levels and everything. And I'd like to keep things the way they are. I'm quite comfortable with how things are working out. And for the migrant issues, for things that are happening in Honduras and Guatemala and El Salvador, that is also not my area of expertise. But clearly, you have to look at it holistically. We don't want people sitting up at the border that don't have a legal mechanism to cross in. So trying to provide alternatives to that so that they don't undergo this sort of arduous and dangerous trek north, frequently where they're giving money to coyotes and other, human smugglers. In this instance, if the people want to go for a bigger reason, we call it smuggling. If they don't realize and they're being trafficked for illegal purposes, we call that trafficking. So there is a difference. If folks want to go. But again, it is criminal syndicates that are running these smuggling networks. But again, you got to go back to what are the drivers, and to make sure that as you're dealing with it, you're trying to deal with the issue comprehensively. And that is looking at the security situation, the economic situation that drive people to feel they need to leave their home,
walk.
and trek someplace unknown because the idea that it will be better when they get there.
Is there a partnership established with the National Security Council in being able to prevent the caravans from coming into Belize? Because, so far, we've not seen the caravans move this way, even though we know we have fairly porous borders.
We cooperate very closely with folks throughout the Belizean government, but absolutely with the Security Council. We have representatives here from Customs and Border Protection. Oftentimes, what we can bring to the table is a capacity to know what's happening other places. We've got operations in Guatemala and a big embassy in Honduras and in El Salvador. So we are tracking these things, so we're able to share that information. At the same time, this is Belize's neighborhood, and folks here often know what's going on. So a lot of what we're able to do is share information so that the necessary resources can be put in place in case, so that plans can be made in the event that something happens.
For the most part, these people are not saying that, yes, to a certain extent, they're saying that, we're running away from the economical situation in our country, but at the same time, their biggest fear are the gangs. So what's going on there? So in terms of how is the U.S. trying to quell that situation?
So there are various things that drive people to choose to do that. An awful lot of folks who are traveling are economic migrants. I think I can get a better job there, so I'm leaving here to go there. And it is for economic reasons. Those are the tough cases that, somebody gets to the border, and just because you want to have a job in the United States doesn't mean you have any right to that. There are people that are fleeing persecution. There are people that are fleeing violence. Those folks then have an opportunity under the international system to seek asylum. Now, they can seek asylum here, and many people have. And there are cases that are pending with the government here where people are seeking asylum because they fear persecution, they fear gangs, they fear violence back in their home country. So those are the asylum cases. What gets tricky is when you've got a few valid asylum cases and an awful lot of economic migrants. It's trying to tell those apart. And that's where the capacity to enter the United States under asylum is very different than if you just show up and say, hey, I'd like to have a job across the border. And that's where it gets tricky. We do still are the #1 immigrant country in the world. We still accept more immigrants into the United States than any other country. I think than most other countries combined. So we hear a lot about immigration. We still are a country of immigrants and we still accept a lot. But again, the reason to allow somebody to come in, whether it's asylum or economic migration, there are different factors that determine whether or not you can legally cross the border.
And do the efforts still continue for the safe third country?
So Safe Third Country was an agreement that we entered into with Canada back in 2002, which basically said if an asylum seeker arrives in the US first, they can't transit through the US, go to Canada and say, I'd like asylum in Canada. Alternatively, they can't enter Canada and then cross into the US and say, okay, I entered Canada on a tourist visa, but I'm crossing the border into the US and now seeking asylum. It is whatever country you first enter into, that is where you should seek asylum. That term has then been used, in terms of agreements we've sought with Mexico, with Guatemala, with other countries in Central America. We're using different terminology. It's the amnesty cooperation agreements to then say, listen, rather than have folks sitting at the US border, does it make more sense if they felt threatened in Honduras that they are allowed to reside in another country in the region while their asylum applications are being processed? And so that's the ACA that we have with Guatemala. I believe we've signed one with Honduras, but again, I want to be a little careful about speaking about the other countries because they're not under my purview.
But the agreement has been signed, and just in terms of progress, where are we with that?
So there have been repatriations. There have been folks that while their cases are pending within the U.S., their asylum cases, that they have been relocated back down to Guatemala. My understanding, and again, not my area of expertise, but that many of those folks have said, well, rather than wait in Guatemala, they will actually return to their home countries while those cases are being processed. It is still, we're talking very small numbers.
Okay. Wow. And while we're on the topic of Guatemala, before we run out of time, the new president took over in last week, Tuesday, I believe, President Giammetti. And one of his first interviews, he spoke of the process of going to the ICJ. He's requesting, or he has stated that he will request a meeting through the OAS to be able to discuss with Belize the possibilities of moving forward with the territorial dispute. I'd just like to get a comment as someone who's been, as a nation that has been very involved in this process, helping to sponsor, I know, some of the education and putting forward your position. What's the role of countries like the U.S. in this process now?
Yeah, this is a dispute between Guatemala and Belize.
Yeah.
The international community, the Friends of Guatemala and Belize, got together to help open up the political space to say, listen, while you seek a final determination on this dispute, let's make sure it's done through a logical, peaceful process. And that's where the international community was able to come in. Again, should there be an initiative by Guatemala, to say, the case has gone to the ICJ. Both countries agreed, so it's there. I believe Guatemala has a year from June 8th, so they've got another 6 months to present their case. If a new president came in and said, hey, let's talk about a process that we might be able to reach some agreement, barring that. I mean, that may be what President Giammetti, I can't put words in his mouth. He hasn't called me to ask my opinion on it. But any time there's an opportunity for two leaders or for people to get together to seek to resolve it, bring the right goodwill to the table, new players can offer new opportunities for some type of resolution. So I don't know what President Giammetti may propose, but getting together to talk about it, to have two leaders, get to know each other through some capacity, that's always a good thing. It's always good to have that personal relationship with somebody in addition to the professional, positions that people hold. There's amazing things that can happen when two people get together and say, let's resolve this.
Okay.
All right.
Well, we thank you for coming in and being able to talk about all these issues. It's a very interesting day in the United States as well, so I know a lot of people are going to be glued to the American news. But once again, we thank you for coming in and letting us know ahead of time that the preparatory work for Beyond the Horizon starts.
Yep.
And by May into the summer, people can expect to see some construction work and also medical clinics in the north. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you very much for having me on. Always appreciate the time.
We're going to go ahead and take that break. When we come back, we'll be talking about the male volleyball championship. So please stay tuned.
Signing up for Smart's broadband got even better.
And welcome back to Open Your Eyes. Cool Tuesday morning, even cooler in the studio as we've got these guys on settled as well. It's the 2020 Male Volleyball Championships. Stick those dates, the 25th, 26th of January 2020. In to talk to us about it is the president of the Belize Volleyball Association, Alan Sharp. You want me to say it like we're introducing him? Alan Sharp. He's the president. And he's flanked by two players. We've got Francis Hawes, who's a player, and Jalen Manzanero. Guys, good morning and welcome and Happy New Year.
Good morning.
Yeah.
So who's Jalen?
Thank you for having us.
Jalen
You look
is here.
Jalen-ish indeed. You look Jalen-ish, and that's
Yeah.
Francis.
Yeah.
Guys, once again, welcome. Mr. Sharp, now we know that volleyball is definitely the sport that is taking off, and it's representing us internationally. Bueno, bueno, bueno. Now let's jump on into it. The Male Volleyball Championships 2020. Talk to us about it, sir.
Well, for, I don't know, the past 10, 12 years, we've been having a national championship.
Yeah.
And every year it's been male and female all together. We go to a part of the country for a weekend. We've now, past years, been making it the final weekend in January. But as you said, the popularity of the sport's been picking up. So now we have more teams than we can have over one weekend. So this is the first year we're having the males separate from the females. The males are this coming weekend at the Civic Center. The females will be in 2 weeks at UB in Belmopan.
Wow.
And for the first time, we have 12 teams coming in from all over the country, some of them being reinforced by getting some foreign players in.
Wow.
We'll be at the Civic Center, like I said. We start 8:30 on Saturday morning. Matches run through till about 9 at night, because it's a lot of games on 2 courts.
Yeah.
We're going to fit 2 courts into the Civic Center. And then on Sunday, we have the playoffs, which will start about 9:30 a.m. and finish about 3 p.m. at Civic Center, that time on 1 court, doing all the final matches. So, but like you mentioned, we have the best of the best from all over the country coming in. We have Jalen from Jaguars, who is the defending champion, 6-time champion, I believe. And we have Francis from Dragons, who is the Division 1 champion, which is our highest league in the country.
Wow.
And so I brought 2 of the guys from the 2 top teams.
Because you want them to smack talk, right?
Well, like, like UFC, right?
Yes. Now let's venture off into the division and how we've gotten to this point. You know, when it comes to national sports, one of the names or the sport that has always been ringing off is football. We'll hear about PLB. We don't hear much about volleyball, but we're now at this point. So tell us about the divisions and how we got to this point.
Well, you know, it's been actually since 1993, without fail. Every single year there's been a Division 1. It's had its highs and lows. Right now we're just heading back up. We had the highs about, say, 7 years ago, where we had very big fan base, couldn't fit within the BS gym.
Wow.
And now it went down a little bit, and now it's growing back up. And I think you will see it with everything that's happening. You know, it's going to grow a lot. And just to get back to these nationals, to show you right now in the Division 1, you have players coming in from all over the country that play. Players from Corozal or Orange-Walk, and they play with the 4 or 5 teams that are within the city and Belmopan, because Belmopan comes and participates in it. But in this tournament, just to list out teams, we have 1 team from Corozal, which always comes in and gives very strong performance. And this year, they promised me they're going to get in the medals. They've placed, I think, as high as 3rd in the past. Last year, they came in 5th. We have a team from San Pedro, who is bringing in foreigners as well. 1 team from Orange-Walk. 2 teams from San Ignacio, Santa Elena area, 1 team from Spanish Lookout, who always comes for the past years and plays very well. They play very good volleyball out in Spanish Lookout. Belmopan has a team, and PG, who is very dangerous all the time, comes with 2 teams. They always place 1st, 2nd, 3rd. They're always there. Very strong volleyball players in PG. And then 3 teams from out of Belize City. So it's 12 teams, and I can tell you, just looking at it, you can't say who's going to win. There's no clear champion. There's no clear leader.
So how many teams do you have for the 12? And is this a growth or a steady number that you're?
It's been growing.
Yeah.
For years, we were kind of around 8 teams.
Okay.
Last year, we had 10 teams and 10 strong teams. Again, you could not tell on day one who would be the champion.
Yeah.
In fact, the defending champion, Jaguars, went through, I think we even lost a match in the first round. It was very tough. And Spanish Lookout, Rednecks, gave
Really?
That's the name.
that's it. Gave tough. Gave they were the team
I
that
like them already.
yeah, and they hustle. They hustle hard. Play very well. So I mean, and the truth is, they come with a lot of passion, lot of desire to win.
Yeah.
Play very hard. The teams like Dragons and so forth bring, their advantage is that they play more matches and harder matches throughout the year.
Yeah.
But one of the things about having it early in the year, not every team has been in the same level of training.
Yeah.
So it gets really very, very exciting.
Yeah. And what about the makeup of the teams, guys? Tell me how competitive it is to get on your individual teams.
Well, my team right now, most of our players are abroad, so
Oh,
we have just players from the city. It's not
Mikey,
Mikey and Brighton.
Brighton.
as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Brighton are
So
part of
those
your
aren't some
squad.
of the
Cool.
foreigners that are coming in?
They're like some of the top players that we have.
Yeah.
And are here with us right now.
Yeah.
But funny enough, you mentioned Brighton's name, and we know that Brighton is actually one of the shining stars of volleyball, representing us internationally in school. Now, for you, Jalen, talk to us about how you feel having him a part of your team, and what do you learn from him?
He's a great mentor right now. Because the position I play, I'm a setter.
Yeah.
And he's like the main attacker, so like he helps me to to understand the speed that they play over there.
Yeah.
Although I'm not there, but it's a mental thing.
But mentally, are you ready for the championships coming up?
I am.
Defending champs,
Yeah.
that's the toughest position to be in.
That is.
You're the target.
And they won't beat us bad.
Yeah.
Wait. So they will beat us. So you guys are.
Yeah, I trained them.
so.
So.
Oh, okay. So let's talk about it, Dragons. So they're the defending champs. You guys are actually attacking these guys. You guys are Dragons. So the name says it all. Talk to us about your team and what you bring to the table.
Well, my team, basically, we stuck together from like when I started 4 years ago. I've never won a nationals because they beat me like 3 times already.
Yeah.
But this time,
But,
I feel confident enough. I will beat them this time.
You have
well, I
international.
mean, you have been competing a lot internationally as
That's
well, and I guess some of the other players on your team. Is that the case?
Yeah, I have the national team setter
Yeah.
on my team. We have Edgar Martinez.
See, watch you when he's there, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of international players. Well, that plays internationally on my team.
Yeah.
What make you guys want to be a part of a volleyball team? I mean, volleyball, they might say, it's not.
I love volleyball. So.
Yeah, why?
Well, it gives me a rush. I don't know. That's a nice feeling.
Yeah.
When you spike, then they dig your ball, then you have to defend again, spike again. Just a rush.
So how are we feeling going into the competition? You said you feel confident. You got a lot of the national team players on your team. You know the Jaguars have beaten you before. What's going to be different this time around?
Yeah.
Brighton, not the count.
Probably
The
that.
boy answer. It's time.
Well, the Dragons beat Jaguars in the D1, which finished last August.
Okay.
So they have a
Rival.
thing going that they've beaten. So
Is that nerves we're hearing from you there, coach? About what they can do?
no, and I'm one of those coaches that's very happy to see people like Francis perform at a very high level.
Of course.
My main goal, especially, I've not been very involved in the training, to be honest, because presidency takes up all your time.
Yeah.
But I'm very pleased to see teams come out and play. And Belmopan's bringing a young team. San Ignacio is bringing their main team and a young team.
Okay.
So try to get some of the young players into the experience part of it. I think that I know Dragons feels confidence. I know Jaguars feels confidence, but I can tell you so does Corozal feel. So San Pedro feels very confident.
Yeah.
I
And
think
Redneck
everybody
feels
feels
too.
that they Rednecks feels confident. Everybody feels very confident. The
Yeah.
Cobras from Orange Walk, so and I tell people everybody tends to, for whatever reason, when you're setting these things up, you don't remember PG. And then PG go and beat up everybody. Right? Ray Palma, and his teams down there are exceptional. In fact, I can tell you, I think half the national team comes from PG.
I was going to say,
So-
yeah, there's a lot of star athletes that have come out of the South and,
Yeah.
and PG especially.
Yeah, I mean, Jaguars, one time half of Jaguars used to be PG.
Yeah.
And now one of the Belize City teams, well, plays in the league. PG team plays in the
Rebels.
D1 league.
Yeah.
And they came in second last 2018. And right now on on some of the Belize City teams, you still have one or two players that are playing with the Belize City teams, although they're from PG.
PG.
So they have a good farm system there.
I think in putting together the national championship, it really is important in giving people goals in competing locally, because there can only be one national team or just a few that will represent internationally. How much do you use this as an opportunity to discover new players?
Oh, it is the key. I think all our national championship our coaches attend. So, for example, even primary school championships, even in the regionals,
Yeah.
but when they have the regional championships in primary school and high school, and in tertiary as well, we have them go visit so that they can see the talent in the male and female.
Yeah.
But this
So
is
you
the
scout.
Yes, and this is the league, this is the championship where you get to see players play under stress and at the highest level.
Yeah.
So, players like these gentlemen beside me, this is where they shine. This is where they're going to be at their best and most competitive. And I must say, over the years, it's definitely improved. We went from a time of the national championship was, you go there, you play, and there's a lot of socializing beside the playing, and now you still have the socializing, but not in the same way.
Yeah.
You have a job to do, so the Saturday night is not about drinking beer and so where I hang out and talk and eat with fried chicken together, but next morning,
EMD, we are friends.
Yeah, right.
Which
right.
it leads me to ask about the female part of things, because we know that the males will be the 25th, 26th.
This weekend, I
This
said.
This weekend?
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. And then the females afterwards. But before I get there, we did mention the PG and their stature, where they got it from. And I'll call a spade a spade. Look, I'll tell you what. Marcel Palma, Ray Palma, Allen, and these guys have been...
Allen
Zuniga. These guys have been a part of volleyball ever so long, along with Frederick Vernon. I don't know if you remember Frederick Vernon, we used to call him a sniper. And these guys have dedicated themselves to volleyball. So I just want to give kudos to them
Yes.
down in PG
Yeah.
for that. Thanks to them,
Yes.
I learned a little bit about the game as well. So would you say that the female part of the game, or the females are much more hotter than males? Normally when you hear nationals are because females first, then males afterwards. But our females have been representing us and have been top key.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
Well, the females undoubtedly in the past 2-3 years have definitely risen. They've put in a lot of work. The structure is a little bit different, and so that has also helped. The thing that really helps the females is that we've managed to get the key females into Belize City, and they stay and live in Belize City.
Yeah.
And it's based, so when they're good players on the outside, they find a way to come to the schools here in Belize
Yeah.
City. And unfortunately, we need to do a better job in having more female development in the district. So, for example, Belmopan over the past 8 years has done a decent job. In fact, I say a good job. I shouldn't that I'm not saying enough. They've done a good job in having female. Now they have females at all different levels
Yeah.
Wow.
playing in Belmopan. But Orange Walk has just started about a year now. So those are the three main areas. We don't have, down south has a very good talent, but we haven't had the amount of development.
Yeah.
This year, Ray promises me that he's bringing a team to nationals. So that will be very interesting.
Yeah.
Orange Walk will be bringing at least one team to nationals. Belize City will obviously be having a number of teams, but Mapan will have probably 2 teams at nationals for female. So
And
that
that's
has,
in 2 weeks' time.
and that's
Yeah.
in 2 weeks' time. And that's the main difference. The men are coming from all over, and so their main key workouts are on weekends, and we
Yeah.
have to finance all of that, come in, a place to stay, a place, eat, all of that to come in. So it's been a little bit different, but I try to remind everybody, don't forget that the males in 2016 came in third. They did their bronze medal, and they've done excellent in beach, and they're very hungry. This year they have at least one international indoor championship to go to, and Francis and Jalen and the rest of the guys are more than ready. They can't wait to start. Cool. In fact, the coach already told them that the weekend following this nationals, they
Start training.
yeah,
Yeah.
straight
Jump.
into it.
Yeah. But I think what we can say for sure is definitely the talent is getting better, and I think opportunities like what we've seen from players getting scholarships, and it's been happening a long time. I think just more people know
Right.
that there are education opportunities that can come from improving yourself in the sport. But there's also more fan support too, isn't there?
Yes, but it's growing, and for any sport to grow, you need to move outside of what I call the family.
Yeah.
Right, you
yeah.
need to get more
Which was kind of like the volleyball community for a long time.
It was very family oriented. It's still very, very family oriented. It's a family sport. We pride ourselves in saying we're the #1 family sport. But you need the fans to go beyond just your parents and your brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
You need to spread it out, and that's what's been happening. So we hope that having the nationals, first time ever, the males will play in the Civic Center. And so
The Civic Center.
the Civic Center, and these teams throughout the country, first time they will get an opportunity to play in our best arena in the country.
Yeah, it is.
And it's the best, most comfortable place to be for the fans.
Yeah.
So we're encouraging the fans to come out. $5 entrance fee. And they could be there all day, so
Yeah.
it's cheap.
So
And
tell us the structure, because you have 12 teams that you got to get down to one.
right, so we have.
I don't know which one.
Yes. So we'll have three pools of 4.
Okay.
The top 4 from each pool moves ahead, and the next 2 will be selected through the second. The ones who come in second, the 3 second, will do a little tournament, so to speak, a little thing, and then out of that we're picking 1 more. So
Oh,
out
so
of
you get a second chance.
yeah, so you get 4 teams
Okay.
there, right? And
That's
then,
nice, yeah.
And then first play
Because
fourth,
you know,
and
if you
second
lose that
play
one
third.
game, sometimes you get heartbroken. That's
Yeah.
that's
know.
it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So everybody gets to play at least 3 matches
Yeah.
in the Civic Center, and with the fans there, and best environment for the fan and the players.
And time of the championship game on.
Championship game normally takes place around between midday and 1 p.m.
Okay.
On
Sunday.
Sunday.
On Sundays,
Yeah.
the Saturday and Sunday
Yeah.
at the Civic Center. The guys are ready. What's the age range that we're looking at with these
It's
teams?
it's an open competition.
Yeah.
So the juniors, the teams that are coming in on junior are going to be anywhere between 13 and 17, 18 years old. But most teams have, both these teams have guys that are 16, 17 years old on
Okay.
their team,
15
on their team.
Yeah.
Because it's a growth process, and
Yeah.
this is an experience for them as well. So it's open, but we also have all the way up to the very experienced in the middle 30s or
Yeah.
more.
All right.
My setter, he's old.
I
Wait,
don't
wait,
call
wait,
him-
hold on, hold on.
But the man
What
know-
age are we saying?
What the old?
the man experienced.
How old is your setter?
33.
wisdom. The man.
Yeah.
Well,
man
okay,
is
let's
wise,
be
you know.
fair. In sports,
Yeah.
that's a
13 are
different.
old.
They have
Yeah.
a different classification, right?
All right.
No, but I think it's an opportunity for people in Belize City to come out. There's a lot of people who enjoy watching volleyball, and there's nothing like being there firsthand and going out and pick their team and root for them. And it's going to be. So, how many teams in Belize City for the male?
3.
3. All right. So we got Dragons, we got Jaguars, and
Eagles.
Eagles. Okay.
All right. So, Jalen, you ready? Always ready.
Of course, all the time.
Francis, you ready?
A long time.
All right. So who's taking home the championship?
Come out Sunday and see.
All right. And as you said, $5 entrance fee, both Saturday and Sunday?
Both Saturday and Sunday.
And it's for all day of games.
All day, yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much for coming
guys.
in. We
Thank
hope
you.
people come on out and support, and we'll find out who the champ is by the end of the weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
All right. We're going to go ahead and take that final break. When we come back, we'll have a wrap up, so stay tuned. We're back.
Just like that, this cool Tuesday morning is actually just coming to an end for us. We want to say a big thank you to Senator Mark Lizarraga for giving us an update on the impact on business and the economy and that national report there. You know, there are a lot of issues in our country. There are a lot of things that we should look upon. But the people, you've got the power. So once again, we want to say a big thank you to Senator Mark Lizarraga.
That's right. And we also want to say thank you to the Charge d'Affaires of the U.S. Embassy in Belize. Of course, we got a preview of Beyond the Horizon, which will start in May and continue through the summer. And this is an opportunity where military personnel from the United States would come in and do some construction work and also offer some medical clinics. There will be some preparatory work taking place. And of course, they do want to let people know that you will be seeing those movements in terms of preparing for Beyond the Horizon in a few months.
Definitely. We also want to say a big thank you to Alan Sharp, the president of the Belize Volleyball Association, and his players for being with us this morning. The big 2020 Male Volleyball Championships coming up this weekend, 25th, 26th. It's only going to be $5 to enter the Belize Civic Center and going out there and cheer on your favorite team. The only way we continue to skyrocket is if we continue to support each other. So guys, thank you so very much. But we've got to go. If you've got any questions, any concerns, drop us a line. We're at oye@channel5belize.com.
You can also drop me a line at marlene_oye@channel5belize.com. Find us on Facebook at Open Your Eyes BZ and on Instagram at
OYE Belize. I got it.
And remember to tune in tomorrow morning at 6:30 when you open your eyes.
To start your morning right, as per usual, keep your eyes, your mind.
And your hearts open. We'll see you soon. Enjoy your day, please.
Open Your Eyes was brought to you by the Belize Bank, our country, your bank.